It is Friday, heading into the weekend, and what's been up for me is this guy, Joseph Campbell. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Joseph Campbell or not, but he's has been very influential in my life, primarily because of this whole idea of the hero's journey, which I think ultimately articulates what we're all doing or experiencing as human beings. So he has this quote here that I want to read. People say that what we're all seeking is the meaning of life. I don't think that's what we're seeking. I think that what we're seeking is an experience of being alive so that our life experiences will have resonance with our own innermost being and reality so that we actually feel the rapture of being alive. And I love that bit right there, the rapture of being alive. And I really resonate with this. I think moment by moment as we go through life, I don't think we're necessarily looking for things to always be positive or rosy. I don't think we're always trying to run away from just negativity and just seeking sort of pleasure and positive things. I think there's something about dropping into the richness of the experience of what it's like to be a human being, what it's like to be alive. So along with that comes sometimes there's almost like a nostalgic sweetness to experiencing this familiar feeling of depression or even anxiety or having relationships. I have aging parents, and there's a real bittersweetness there of watching them age. They're in the final chapter of their life, and recognizing that they're still the people that I grew up with, but they're no longer really mom and dad in the way that I used to experience it. And so it's complicated and it's nuanced. And so all, back to this idea of it's about the rapture of being alive and just being really present for, all of it, everything that's showing up in our lives. And when you think about what we're doing here on a daily basis, we're practicing so many of these foundational skills that give us access to this rapture of being alive. So mindfulness, that ability to just hang with whatever's happening without judgment, without running away, without needing to label things good or bad. It's just like I'm in full contact with reality. That's an amazing skill. Attentional control, realizing that wherever I focus my attention is what ultimately stimulates my experience of that moment or of reality. So it matters a lot, to what extent I can control or manage my attention. Self-awareness, like, do I actually have this experience of knowing that I'm the one experiencing these things in this moment, and oh my gosh, other people are probably having something similar go on for them too, right? Resilience and reframing, the ability to realize that just because we think it or believe it doesn't mean it's true. And so can we use our attentional control, our self-awareness, our mindfulness, and be able to reframe whatever the experience is that's going on and say, wow, maybe there's a different story or a different narrative that explains what's happening here. And that leads us to be able to respond versus react, right? We all have this reactivity. Our nervous system just jumps to conclusions. And I think of it like when you go to the doctor and they tap your knee and your leg does that. That's a reflex. That's a reaction. We can't help that. It just is what it is. But we can cultivate an ability to be able to respond more choicefully and with more awareness. Compassion, realizing everyone's stumbling through their version of being human and of life, trying to make sense of it all. And it's pretty overwhelming at times, quite wonderful at times too, but just realizing that, this ability to realize that others are going through this stuff is a really helpful point of connection. Self-soothing, like learning how to actually down-regulate our nervous system through breathing, through just sitting quietly, through connection and communicating with others. Forgiveness, being able to let go of things that happened in the past and say, this is now, that happened then. Again, easier said than done, but it's all stuff that I think contributes to that rapture of being alive. And then last but not least, gratitude and kindness, and just remembering what, in my experience, makes this whole enterprise of being a a human being worthwhile is being able to connect with that sense of kindness and gratitude. And again, that's my personal subjective experience. But I sense that's the case for many of us. So the goal for today is let's do a little bit of a round of the world experience and practice just touching into all of these different bits and pieces as we sit quietly. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's start by closing our eyes. Bringing your attention inward. Noticing the body, sitting, lying down, wherever you find yourself, just notice for a second. I experience life through this body that experiences all kinds of sensory inputs, millions of them every second. There's information coming in. And all the senses pick up this data and send these data up to the brain, and the brain turns it into a story. And the story is a belief, or it's images. And that's just the way it is. There's nothing wrong with that. It's good to know. And so mindfulness allows us to be aware of the fact that this is happening all the time. So see if you can sort of take a step back and simply notice the body, the ears, the skin, even your eyes closed or picking up all kinds of inputs. And then notice how that affects the brain and the stories, the thoughts. Noticing the sensation of what is it like to be self-aware? Meaning, what's it like to notice that you are a biological being experiencing these inputs with a brain, then turns these inputs into stories and beliefs and memories. What's it like to be aware of that? And as you become aware of the thoughts and the beliefs, notice if there's a part of you that can take a step back and even just pose the question and say, is that true? Is that the only explanation for what's happening? Is that the only description? And if there are other possible explanations, that's what we call reframing. It allows us to look at things from different angles and say, maybe this is what's happening. Maybe that's happening instead. And this in turn gives us choice, gives us agency. So rather than just being like a marionette, it's just reacting to all these triggers and all these things pulling on us, we get to make a choice and we get to choose, how do I want to respond to whatever's happening in this moment? I think in order to choose, it's really helpful to have a really clear sense of our value system, like what actually is important to us, what matters. Because in order to make choices, we need to know what motivates us and what's driving us. So this is where compassion and gratitude and love, kindness, forgiveness, what really matters. It's really helpful to take even just a few minutes a day to step into this world of inquiry and questioning, recalibration. Hit the pause button and say, okay, what's done is done. Let me make some choices from here on out. It's never too late to hit the reset button. We have that choice literally every moment of every day. We take a deep breath and then choose how we want to be in this moment. We just do our best. Go ahead and take a deep breath in through the nose. Long, slow exhale through the mouth. Relaxing the hands, the belly, the shoulders. And hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Another deep inhale through the nose. As slow an exhale as you can manage. So really drag it out. As long as you can go, pushing all the air out. Then hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And go ahead, open your eyes. Let the lungs breathe. Let the body do its thing. Let the mind just think on its own. And see if you can maintain that sense of just awareness in the background. Like, oh yeah, this is happening all the time. And there's a me here that gets to make some choices about how I interact with all the stuff that's happening around me. Hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for signing in on a Friday afternoon, a holiday weekend. I appreciate you guys very much and hope to see you on Monday.